And, Senator, it looks like now we're getting closer to the moment that these two leaders, President Trump and North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un, are meeting and shaking hands. You are watching history live as it happens in Singapore. It's the first time ever that a sitting U.S. president has gone and met with the leader of North Korea to sit down and have discussions about their nuclear program. There have been numerous talks and agreements in the past between numerous U.S. leaders and North Korean regime. They have all failed. They have fallen apart when someone, and generally it's been North Korea, has not lived up to the deal. Now these two begin what they will do first, which is go behind closed doors, one-on-one with only their translators, none of their diplomats, none of their staff. The president has talked a great deal about how he feels that he'll know within even the first moment whether Kim Jong-un is serious, whether they can make a deal. He has said this is a lot to do with attitude, with willingness to find some type of compromise. But the U.S. has also said the ultimate goal, as Secretary Pompeo reiterated today, is about completely getting rid of, dismantling, and wiping out North Korea's nuclear processes as they stand right now. We don't even know, truthfully, because it's really tough for intel on every level to find out exactly how many nuclear weapons they may have, the capabilities they have. We've seen numerous ballistics tests and nuclear tests, 6 of those now in recent history. And as these two leaders walk together and talk, they are smiling. They appear congenial. And you see the press following closely behind. After they have this private meeting together, there will then be a more expanded bilateral in which they'll come together with important members of their staff. General Kim, as you remember, will be the one who came to New York and then ultimately to the White House to deliver a letter directly from Kim Jong-un to President Trump, inviting him to carry out this summit for the two of them to get together. On the U.S. side, General Kelly will be there, White House Chief of Staff, we're told, also Secretary Pompeo. And they will get together and get down to brass tacks. But first, these two go behind closed doors, mano a mano. Jason, these two leaders, it's never happened before. What goes on in these few minutes where it's just the two of them and their translators?
I think this is what Donald Trump was relishing. I also think it's what Kim Jong-un was seeking. He wanted respect on the world stage. He has the attention of the President of the United States. But it's a great opportunity. It's exceeded all the expectations. Even just a few weeks ago, we didn't know if this was going to happen. And I think it is a good and healthy thing for these two people to look eyeball to eyeball and chat in person. Put aside the staff, put aside all the other work that goes on. You still need those two people in the same room at the same time to make critical decisions and create a trajectory where we can have a safer world. And Senator, you know there have been critics on both sides of the aisle about the way the president has conducted diplomacy, the way that he is very direct, that he gives out nicknames. You know how this works with him, and yet this is further along than we've seen ever before with an American leader. Now, critics will say he gives North Korea and he gives Kim Jong-un some degree of legitimacy simply by sitting down with him. You think it's a plus or a minus for these two to meet face to face?
We have nothing to lose by doing this. Let me tell you why I believe that. President Trump, the first time I met him as president, said that he was going to stop North Korea from developing a missile with a nuclear weapon on top that could hit America. He believes he can make it a win-win proposition, but if he has to go to war, he will. No other president has gotten this far because no other president has been that clear. I don't want a war. So you better pray and hope this works out, because if this falls apart like everything else has in the past, then President Trump will use military force as a last resort. But this president and his team has accomplished more than anybody in the last 30 years by being tough and clear. I believe that North Korea is afraid of Trump. They don't know what he will actually do, and they're there because they're trying to find a way out of a box that President Trump has put them in.
And you're looking live now in Singapore as the two have just moments ago met face to face. They shook hands and now they sit down. The media will be ushered out in just a bit so that they can sit there and talk with only their translators as the witnesses to this bit of history. Jason, there's been a lot made of the president's team. Oh, wait, let's listen in. I think we've got some audio here.
훌륭한 관계를 가지고 있고 아주 전혀 의심 없이 좋은 관계를 우리가 맺을 거라고 생각합니다.
여기까지 오는 길이 그리 쉬운 길은 아니에요.
Well, it was not easy to get here.
우리한테는 우리 발목을 잡는 그 과거가 있고 또 그릇된 국민과 발행들이 우리 때로는 우리 눈과 귀를 가리고 있었는데 우리 모든 것을 이겨내고 이 자리까지 왔습니다.
The past worked as fetters on our wings, and the old prejudices and practices worked as obstacles on our way forward, but we overcame all of them and we are here today. That's true.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This way. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you can see the president there as he's chuckling and we're chuckling a little bit, saying, you know, I'll answer some more of these questions once we get the media out of here. Let's listen in.
Thank you. Thank you.
We find so often with this president, when the media is told time's up and it's time to get out, they're still shouting questions often, the press corps with the president. And that is often when we get some of the most interesting comments from him. A little bit there, a little bit of a chuckle and a lighthearted moment as he said he would answer some questions. It appears that Kim Jong-un had a discussion they wanted to have, but that wasn't going to happen while the media was there. So they have been ushered out, and now we will await as they go behind closed doors. We may hear from them afterwards. We don't know how timely a fashion that will happen. But let's show you the handshake again, because it made history just moments ago when these two walked across that portico at a Singapore hotel, shaking hands, saying they will meet together the first time ever, a U.S. president and the leader of North Korea, meeting face to face to try to tackle what is a very difficult, very complex problem, and that is denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula. A lot of players involved. We talked about China, South Korea, Japan, and really the impact on the broader world. We know that North Korea has been testing intercontinental ballistic missiles. There's been a lot of talk about the range that they have, the mid-range missiles that still very much will concern Japan if those aren't addressed in these negotiations. But more broadly, the rest of the world worried about the very rapid advancement and development of the North Korean program. Jason, I started to ask you about the fact that this team is interesting in that we have former UN Ambassador John Bolton, and you've got now Secretary of State, former CIA Director Mike Pompeo. A lot of folks say that they bring different viewpoints to the president. And so he's got really two different angles coming at him with his own team, two different things to consider.
Well, John Bolton comes with the reputation of being very hawkish. He also has the historical knowledge and background from his extensive government experience. Mike Pompeo has the belief and the confidence of the president, and as Secretary of State, and prior to that, as the CIA director, his personally meeting with Kim Jong-un, I think, was the precursor that maybe gave the confidence and smoothed over some of those rough edges that allowed this type of meeting to come to fruition. So I think, in retrospect, those two gentlemen have played a very key role, but it's under the direction of President Trump, and I give the president a lot of credit for getting out of his comfort zone and sitting down and doing what a lot of people wouldn't do otherwise.
And of course, Secretary Pompeo obviously was one of your colleagues on the Hill as well. He used to be a member of Congress on the House side. And Senator, there's been a lot of talk from Republicans and Democrats alike about whatever is ultimately hammered out. If this is step one and it takes weeks, months, years, whatever it takes, ultimately whatever is hammered out.